Okay, so the next thing on our list of stuff to discuss is, of course, the Quad A record. I'm going to hit the plus button here, but we're not going to configure one, actually. If you look at Quad A, it just changes this label here, right? Which doesn't help us much. If I wanted to do Quad A, let's say I wanted to do mail, Quad A to, and here's where we run into this problem, right? Because IPv6 address is very, very, very long and is publicly routable anywhere because the way that IPv6 is designed. And so there are all sorts of problems with Quad A's that don't show up with other stuff. Now, Quad A in DNS is really no big deal. I'm making it sound like a bigger deal than it is. The problem isn't really the Quad A record. The problem is IPv6 itself, because IPv6 in and of itself is not widely supported by websites yet. It's not widely supported by mail servers yet. It is flat out not supported, or it doesn't work on huge number of consumer grade routers and digital video recorders and various other things. And a lot of this was discovered back whenever we had IPv6 Day a couple of years ago. Since then, not a lot has been done to publicly change that behavior. And so I'm going to assume that at this point, as I'm recording this, you don't have an IPv6 network. You may have IPv6 support. Mac OS X, for example, has technically supported IPv6 since 10.1. It was turned on by default in 10.3. But if you're not serving out DHCP6 and serving out IPv6 addresses via DHCP, it is unlikely that your client systems have DHCP6 addresses, the IPv6 addresses that are handed out by DHCP. So, where does this leave you, right? You can, of course, enter these Quad A records, but all a Quad A record is going to do is it's going to direct someone to the IPv6 address of a name, right? And we're already doing that with IPv4 with an A record, right? So that is the big difference that I want to impress upon you here with this video, is that you are already doing IPv4 addressing and IPv4 DNS A records here. Quad A records are just the IPv6 variant of that. And unless your router is passing IPv6 traffic properly, unless you have IPv6 filtering enabled on your firewall, and unless you understand the ramifications of all of the devices on your private network having full routability to and from the internet, meaning somebody on the internet via IPv6 can request the attention of an IPv6 device on your local network, because we're not using network address translation like we do in IPv4, right? It's just public. It's there. It's available. There is a public address for everything in existence and more, billions of devices. So it's a larger thing. This is not a course about IPv6, and so there's certainly lots to be learned there, and I do recommend that you study up on it because IPv6 is out there now and is going to become more and more prevalent as time goes on. But the Quad A record portion of it is quite simple, right? You put in the name just like you would with an IPv4-based A record. You select the Quad A as the record type, and you simply, very, very simply, copy and paste the IPv6 address of the computer that you want that traffic to go to in that space there, and then you click the plus button and you create another record, okay? We do not have IPv6 enabled on our test network, so I don't have an IPv6 address to paste into this space, so that would fail, and I don't want to have that failure come up on screen here, so I'm simply going to click the X, and I'm going to suggest that you do the same, unless you are one of those lucky few who have done all of the work necessary to get your IPv6 network up and running, in which case, copy and paste to your heart's content and create those Quad A records, because that is preparing for the future, which I guess is now.